hello and good morning, and welcome to another episode of Shedlock Customs TV. And in this episode, if you can see down here, we've got the Norton, which I've been doing a fair bit of work on. So I'm going to flip this round and let you have a look at what we've been up to, and I'll tell you a bit more about what the plan is for today. So just to recap, jobs that we've done: new foot pegs, relocated the actual foot peg arm, changed the brake, welded this on the other side, put the brake rod back on. I've lock wired a few things on this side. There's a few more bits and pieces to do, but I need to turn the bike round and get it off the trailer, or off the stand, I should say, off the trailer. Wishful thinking. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to show you what else I've been doing. Just as one of those things I should show you now, really. I'm going to interject a quick bit of video on me machining this hole out. So I took this round to the milling machine and we bored that out. And the reason was this, although this is a 302 GP float chamber, top loaded one, the hole was a small hole for a different setup, which I spoke to the guy from Surrey Cycles, and he basically said there's no option other than to either have that carburetor or to bore this out to the correct size for a GP, which is what I've done, which is 22mm, just a little bit bigger than 22mm. So that should now fit, and then we can mount this up, and then I can work out the fuel pipes. Okay. So this is the GP carburetor. If you've never played with one of these things, hopefully I've done that enough. This was the original tube that feeds petrol to the engine, or from the float chamber to the carburetor, I should say. And in there you've got the main jet and a needle jet. So I've machined that float chamber so it's the same size as this diameter. So it should be just a case of swapping them over and putting that on. So let's do that next. Okay, a bit of basics about the float chamber. So top loader, fuel's coming in from the fuel tap. You've then got one of these, which is the float shut-off, or the shut-off valve, which sits on top of the float like that. Down inside the float chamber you've got a post which that sits on, then that sits on that, and as the float comes up it's directed into that hole, and when it pushes up far enough it seals that hole up, stops the petrol coming from the fuel tap. So it's pretty simple. And then obviously the fuel is coming out through that hole into this area here, which then comes up through the float block, or the jet block I should say. So if you didn't know how one of those works, I think that's how it works, unless I've got that wrong, in which case, please let me know. Right, so the float chamber is one of the brass ones. And I swapped this for a pint of beer from a good friend. But as he's written on here, he reckons it leaks. So I don't want to go attacking it with a Bunsen burner just yet. So what I thought I'd do is submerge it in some water and see if we can see where any bubbles are coming out and lead us to the leak. So let's try that. So just got the washing up bowl. I'm just going to put that and submerge it. Now, I know maybe water is not quite the same as petrol, but even so, I can't see anything leaking. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a chance on that, and we'll take it apart after we've used to get a tank full of petrol and see if it still floats, because it obviously still floats. Right, let me take it back and I'll show you quite how the setup works with a top fed 302 Amal float chamber. Now, can you hear that? It might not have let any air out, but it's let water in because I can feel it, and hopefully you can hear that. So that's a problem. Right, a healthy go round with a soldering iron. Well, actually a blowtorch. Try not to melt the thing in half and end up losing it. I'll tell you all about how I did it in a minute. The only thing I can't do is do anything with the tube that goes down through the middle. So if you can imagine, it's got a tube through the middle which is swaged over at either end, which is holding these two bits apart, and then there's just a flange there with a soldered joint. So hopefully I'll have fixed it. So back to the sink. So go number 2. No rattling. Think we fixed it. Awesome. Well pleased with that. And there it is, mounted up. I'm going to try it on the other side. I need to take the bike off the stand first, or not really sure I'm happy with that, but with a 90-degree one there's not much you can do. And then basically, if you look at that, I think when the float is at the right level, it's got to have the level up to that as an indicator. So if you put a tube on the end of here, piece of clear tube, and you run it up the side, when you fill this up with fuel, the fuel level would stop so that it was in line with the center of that circle. I'll try and in there. No, it won't fit round the other side, so it's got to be this side. I'm not sure. I pushed it round forwards, but when you look above, I suppose this is going to be underneath the fuel tank, because that's the fuel tank mount. Not happy having things going over the top of fuel systems. I'm going to see if I've got a right angle one of those, which might be a little bit nicer. Or really what I want is a single one and have a joiner somewhere to, supposed to having a separate feed for each fuel tap, have one coming from the tank and come into a single and then come into a single, and that would eliminate that being there at all, and then I could spin that round. So we'll see. I mean, it's quite a long, you know, it's a good 6 inches above, so I wouldn't have thought radiated heat is going to be a problem. But yeah, don't want any fires. Right angle one, managed to find something. Doesn't match the other one, but that'll be okay. But by the time the petrol pipe's clipped over here, it's just going to be directed in a better direction. I think I'm happy with that. Right, let's move on. Right, here's a quick look round where we are. So as you can see, the front brake cable still needs to be put on. There's a few things I'd like to lock wire, but in general it's almost ready to go. And then we'll put the tank on. Now, these are the upstands for the tank, and I must have been in a very good frame of mind when I was doing this, because I've marked each one: left front, left rear, right front. So you've got like a through bolt. They're Allen bolts, which is, yeah, not ideal. I might have to change them out to something a little bit more in keeping with the bike, but it'll be our little secret to start with.